Greetings viewers, you may or may not be aware that the Tavor 7 is actually able to be converted from right to left hand without having to purchase any sort of special parts. You don't need any special left-handed bolts or barrels. Everything that you get right out of the box, regardless of the configuration you get it in, you can convert from right to left hand and vice versa with everything that is included on the rifle here without any special tools other than some sort of little punch. So I'm going to break the video down into 3 separate parts. We're going to work on the charging handle, we're going to work on the ejection port, and then we're going to work on the bolt. So you can check the timestamps down below if there's any one of those parts in specific you're looking for, or if you're just trying to do the whole thing and you're going to follow along, let's jump into it. So the first thing we need to do is we need to check our weapon. I have already safety checked it, but we'll do that again. We're going to lock our bolt to the rear. We're going to check our chamber, visually and physically inspecting to make sure there's not a round in there. So we can send the bolt forward. And then we need to remove the bolt itself, and we're going to do that by pushing out this pin in the rear here. From the right to the left, it is a captured pin, so it's not going to go anywhere. Just get some sort of punch tool, something you can push on it with. A lot of people use 308 rounds. 308 is a little expensive. I prefer not to do that and risk damaging my ammo. We're just going to go ahead and pull the bolt assembly all the way out. Again, that'll be the third part that we'll get to when we do our conversion. So now we are going to flip this back over to this side. You'll notice that there are 2 lines right here, right above where the charging handle slot is. So we are going to pull this back to that location. So up front here, it is a little tight. Once we get back to here, it's nice and smooth and easy to work with. So what we are going to do is we are going to pinch that little lock that locks in here up in the front. We're going to pinch that, and we are going to actually bend this forward. And what that's going to do is that's going to give us access to this little detent that's right here. So you can see there is a little kind of button looking thing here that's recessed in there. We have to push that down as we pull the charging handle away. So we kind of tilt it just a little bit. We push that detent and this whole thing slides right off. So this is our charging handle. So now we've got this metal piece here. And what we want to do is we want to fold that down. And then we are going to flip this over to the other side. And you'll notice that now we have a metal piece sticking up on this side since we flipped it. And all we're going to do is making sure that we have this locking portion pointed towards the front, because again, that's what's going to interface here to keep the charging handle locked in the forward position. We're just going to slide this on until it snaps into place. You'll hear that detent. You can kind of give it a little tug to make sure it's actually on there. We now have a charging handle on the right side of our Tavor 7. So we're already done with that. So let's go ahead and move on to the ejection port. So you'll notice, obviously, if I'm a right-handed shooter, I want the brass ejecting out of the right side, so since my face is over here. If you're a left-handed shooter, having your face right here where the brass is coming out is not a fun time. Now, this big chunk of plastic here on the rear that has a screw in it, you would think, oh, we just need to unscrew that. We don't need to do that. But you'll notice that the side that's facing forward is flat and the one towards the rear is angled. If we look at the other side, where this is actually closed up, the flat side is pointing towards the rear and the angled side is pointing towards the front. Well, in order to get this side open and the other side closed, it's very simple. All we have to do is just grab this piece that is kind of like little pockets here on the top and bottom. You can get your fingers in there, get a nice grip on it, and you're going to pull up, and this entire assembly is going to slide to the rear. You need to lift it high enough, and we need to actually rotate this. And now we'll notice that this side is open. Well, we don't want to leave the other side open too. We need to close it. So we're just going to do the reverse. We are going to grab, pull straight out high enough that you can clear everything, get this spun around, slide it to the front, and then just make sure that locks into place. And now this side is closed and this side is open. So now we are 2/3 of the way there to make this a lefty. So let's go get started on the bolt here. I might have to set up the camera a little bit differently so you can see it better. All right, so when it comes to our bolt, we are going to have to disassemble it and move some parts around, but thankfully they label everything and make it super simple. All right, so we're going to push out this pin in the rear here that's marked with the arrow. Push your bolt all the way to the rear, pop that out. Again, it is a captured pin that's not going to go anywhere. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull our firing pin and spring out of the rear. We've got that pin here again that's labeled L and R, so we need to get that out of there. Turn it upside down, give it a little shake, grab a hold of it, pull that out, and then we're going to pull our bolt out of the front. Now, just like the other part was labeled, the bolt has an R over this hole here, and if we flip it around to the other side, it now has an L. Whichever orientation this is facing up is the direction that the bolt is going to operate. So our ejection port is now on this side of the rifle. The extractor is on that side, so it's kind of hooking those rounds and pulling them in that direction. So again, we want the L facing upward. So all we're going to do is now, instead of it being this way, again, make sure the L is facing up, slide your bolt back in place. We're going to, you have to orient that hole again. You have to orient that hole that's down there for that pin to go into. So we need to make sure we give it enough space for that. We're going to look at the top of this. Again, we've got the L and the R designation, so we need to make sure that as we are looking at the rifle from a shooting position that we see an L clearly and the R is upside down. So this little pointy piece is basically going to be pointing towards the rear of the weapon. All right, so we've got our L. I can see it from the top here. We've got our L, things pointing towards the back. Give it kind of a little bit of a wiggle in there so it falls down into place. And we've got it in there. All right, so next we need to get our firing pin back in, make sure the spring is attached. And once you've got it pushed forward far enough, this firing pin, retaining pin, is going to snap back into place and keep your firing pin from falling out of the back. Then all we have to do is reinstall our bolt. All right, so we just pop the back open. Get our bolt assembly slid in. Snap our pin down, and we now have a left-handed rifle. Hopefully you found this video somewhat useful in your Tavor 7 endeavors. If you think I missed something or didn't cover anything in a little bit better detail, please feel free to let me know. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.